Welcome back, everybody. Take a break with Stephen Shamus.
Good to see you, my friend. I think what is it? Is it Cowboy Friday?
It is Cowboy Friday. Yeehaw! Got my
like
Western
Woody.
tee on.
Like Woody.
Oh, sure. Well, the bottom of my foot says Andy, so someone's got to have it.
All you need is a little hat, cowboy hat.
Yeah, and a lasso.
All right, what do we got today, Alex?
We got some. I don't want to say this is a random episode, but it's pretty random. We're gonna talk a little bit about like the early 2010s variant covers. Not just a couple today, but a lot of those books are going crazy on the secondary market. People are just realizing how rare they are. Talk a little Calypso, Craven the Hunter's girlfriend. We're gonna hit indie side and talk about Love and Rockets and the Rocketeer, no relation.
How do I look? Like a hood ornament. Stand clear. What was that? A flying man!
And then we're gonna talk about Mr. Bones, my favorite skull smoking character in the DC universe.
Yeah, a lot of good stuff. Looks a little like Ghost Rider-ish.
Yeah, a little, sure. Non-flaming. Unflamed Ghost Rider. Yeah.
Yeah, it is a little bit of a mixed bag today. Not a lot of there's one movie connection here.
Right.
Yeah. And then on the variant covers, I think what you're starting to see is some of these variant covers like out of nowhere. I don't know if it's just an influx of new people coming into the market. I don't know like what's causing it, but a lot of those, I think we're going to give you a few examples today.
Mm-hmm.
I think, but the key is if you have a cover from the 2010s, that era, 20 aughts,
the aughts,
and it was a 1 in 50, 1 in 100, 1 in 500. Those books have been snapped up like crazy. So even if you get them raw right now and try to get them in high grade, like there seems to be a rush to buy all those books right now.
Totally.
Okay, so what are we going to start with? Is that what we're starting with today?
Yeah, let's go. Let's jump right into those variant covers because there's some fun ones.
Okay. All right, Alex. So there have been some significant sales lately on 4 books in particular that I'd like to bring up, and you're going to be shocked by these numbers. And again, I think if you're smart and you go into the shows, try to find anything from the aughts that are 1 in 50, 1 in 100, 1 in 200, 1 in 500. You used to be able to buy those like relatively inexpensively, but not really anymore. Yeah. So Amazing Spider-Man number 648. There's a Jeff Campbell variant edition.
Mm-hmm.
It's from January of 2011. 19 blue label 9/8, 11 gold label 9/8. That's about a $400 raw book. You can't even find them at all. And that book is really, really escalated. And then there's a 1 in 100 sketch cover.
Yes.
Jeff Campbell.
Yeah.
69 blue label 9/8, 42 gold label 9/8. A 9/8 just sold for almost $1,400 on that one. And 1 in 100 on a Spider-Man book is not really like rare the way some of these other ones are rare.
Right.
Because Spider-Man has always sold well over 100,000 copies.
Yeah.
Probably back then, you're probably in the 150,000 range. Yeah. Now, again, there's not an exact number, but Marvel generally have printed some extras. Sometimes they would close them out. I remember you get those closeout lists with Marvel where you could buy some of the variant covers. I remember those. By the way, they started repackaging, I think, for Target or Walmart, some of the variants. Caused a little bit of a stir with the Patrick Gleason variant.
Yeah.
On the Spider-Man head. But I think, 1 in 100 on a Spider-Man book. I mean, they may have printed, if it's 1 in 100, 1,500 copies or, something like that, like, it's not like it's, but, they've just been dispersed,
but it's not a lot of books. So you say 1,500 copies, there's 3,000 stores, right?
Right.
So that's not one per store.
Yeah. And then the next one is on Amazing Spider-Man 688. Mm-hmm. There's a Jeff Campbell 1 in 50 variant cover. Twice as easy to get as the other one. That's from August of 2012. 24 blue label 9/8, 0 gold label 9/8. That's a $1,260 book.
That's
that just sold. So again, like these books are like, Alex, like somebody's snapping these things up. And by the way, it doesn't take much to drive the price up because at any given time, there's maybe 1-2 copies for sale. So you sell it and the next guy puts it on. So I think now the shows are open and you go through, but I'm not going to say that these are going to be in dollar boxes, but there's probably, again, there are probably a lot of dealers that haven't repriced their stuff in a year and a half and might have it out at $30, $40, whatever, and not realizing that the prices on these individual 1 in 50, 1 in 100 books are crazy. Then the last one I want you to talk about, Alex, is Uncanny X-Men 297, the Pressman Gold variant. Talk a little bit about that book and what's its origins and why it's so rare.
Yeah, so around this time, you're starting to see a lot of like merchandise for comic books, Monopoly, Justice League, X-Men, the board game, Batman animated series, Checkers, everything is kind of just like merched. And a lot of times they would put comic books in the board games to just be like, hey, free comic book inside, incentive to buy it. This one for the X-Men board game was a mail away. So you had to mail away a proof of purchase to get the book. Now, if it comes with a board game, there's probably going to be a lot. If it's a mail away, you'd have to be a person that would buy the game and then mail it away within the structured time. I'm sure it was like, a year after the board game came out, but these are not easy to find at all. And especially in halfway decent shape. Again, you're having a board game company mail them out. They're not coming in like top loaders or anything like that.
Yeah, look, it reminds me of the Toy Biz, Spidey 2099 white cover.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep. It's one thing. Yes, every figure has one, but the way the construction of the figure went, getting a 9.8 out of there is almost impossible. A lot of them have the same indentations because remember, they have to pack the comic, they have to pack the toy on top of the comic, and then they have to seal it. Yeah. And those sealing machines could easily cause the spine dents that you've seen that are very, very common on the book, all in the same location, by the way.
Exactly.
From where the machine went down. So anyway, Uncanny X-Men 297, February of 1993. There's only 12 blue label 9.8s, 0 gold label 9.8s. One just sold for $1,200. So again, like you said, I think you need to start looking back at the mail-aways. When we closed our warehouse at Wizard, we used to do a lot of these mail-away comics. We threw them out in the garbage.
Sure.
You're going back 15 years ago. So, I mean, I know we sold copies of the books back in the day. We used to mail them in those, manila folders.
Sure.
But like when we closed the warehouse, some of these books we may have printed 10,000, 15,000 copies of, and we may have thrown out 2/3, a half, 2/3, whatever the print run. And, there's just onesie, twosie copies floating around out there.
Exactly.
And I have noticed an uptick on books like Gambit a Half and some of these other half books where they're kind of hard to find.
Yeah.
They really are kind of hard. Okay. All right. What do we got next, Alex?
Yeah. Let's talk about little Kraven the Hunter. Some news in the Sony world.
Right. So Jodie Turner-Smith, who's an amazing actress. Yes. She's awesome. I can't remember the show where she gets her arm chopped off, but that was she was great at that. Do you remember the show that?
I don't know that one.
I got to look that up. She loses her arm and then unfortunately loses her life. Spoiler alert. I'm going to look it up while we talk comic books here. Yeah. But in any case, she's going to play a character called Calypso. There is not a lot of Calypso stuff, Alex. I did a deep dive, and it's just not easy to find. So talk a little bit about the character Calypso, Alex, and why would Kraven the Hunter pick Calypso as one of the starring characters?
Yeah, so if they're doing a Kraven the Hunter kind of like movie, you got to think about his family as well. I mean, his brother is the Chameleon. He's had kids. Calypso was his girlfriend / wife, but she's like a voodoo priestess. She has, she's a villain in her own right. But like you said, she's not been in the comics a lot by any means. It's not like she's like every Spider-Man's #1 villain. Like even Kraven wasn't in the books that much, and he died and he's been dead for a while. So, after Kraven's Last Hunt. So, these are books that are going to be really hard to find. And, after seeing the Venom movie, the Sony movies are putting a lot of work into these Spider-Man offshoot movies. So it's not like it's going to be a bad movie.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think all these movies are going to, be very, very popular.
Yeah.
Some are hits, some are missed, but the Marvel films don't really seem to miss, even the Sony Marvel films. So Jodie Turner-Smith was in a show called Jet. She loses her arm. It's a pretty vicious scene. Anyway, she's also in Queen and Slim, which was terrific.
Yeah, of course.
If anybody's seen it. Okay. So anyway, Calypso, not much to choose from. These are the books you need to get. Amazing Spider-Man number 209, October 1980. So it's funny. It's like, it's a 41-year-old book already. Jesus.
Old book.
205 blue label 9.8s, 11 gold label 9.8s. It's almost a $1,600 book now, Alex.
Wow, that's a big deal.
Origin and first appearance of Calypso. Kraven appears with Spider-Woman as well. It's a Denny O'Neil story with an Alan Weiss cover and art. So that is the book to get. $1,500 is pretty steep. Maybe you get a 9.6. or a 9.4 for a little bit less. But, you know, I don't know what those books were trading for before the announcement. All the old vintage Spider-Man stuff is blowing up anyway.
Yeah.
But this is
Spider-Man's
just another
always good
reason.
stuff. Yeah.
And the Craven stuff is going up, and Craven is obviously in that same issue.
Yeah.
Then there's two books you should take a look at. They got kind of lucky on this, Comic Exposure. Have you ever looked at Comic Exposure, their store?
No, I've seen a bunch of their stuff online though.
Okay. So they did Amazing Spider-Man number 20, which was number 820 on the legacy numbering. June of 2019. There's a Lucio Perillo Calypso cover, which is awesome.
Yeah, he's great.
It's absolutely awesome. Now, Comic Exposure still has these books in stock. They probably didn't anticipate this character. I mean, I don't think anybody would, because this character isn't on any other covers that I could find. So June of 2019, the regular edition is $20. The Virgin cover is $30. It's $50 for the pair if you buy them both. There are 3 blue label and 1 gold label on the regular, and there are 6 blue label and 3 gold label on the Virgin covers. I would go to Comic Exposure. I buy a set for $50. I put it away and wait, because typically when Marvel does those exclusives, you know, they do 3,000 of the regular, 1,000 of the Virgin. That's kind of like the typical print run on those.
Yep.
Yeah. So that's what we're looking at. Okay. Alex's pick of the week. What do you got for us, Alex? You always surprise me. What do we got?
You know, I'm a record guy, and DC has been doing some stuff with LPs, specifically with Dark Knight's Metal. What they've been doing recently is the series has ended, but they're doing variant covers to Dark Knight's Metal, which now come with a flexi disc. And if anybody doesn't know what a flexi disc is, it's a small record that is on like almost plastic that you can put on a record table and you can listen to it. It's just very flexible. It's very cheaply made.
I remember those when I was a kid. Yeah.
They used to be in magazines all the time. I mean, it was just almost in everything. There's been a lot of comics that had them. Nexus had a flexi disc. Ms. Tree had a flexi disc. Femme something. I think what's the hip hop book? Hip Hop Family Tree had a flexi disc recently. You know, it's an easy, cheap way promotional item, but DC is now doing them with Dark Knight's Metal. And so every reprint of Dark Knight's Metal, it comes with a flexi disc. And these are also alternate covers and recolored. So everything about these books, and I know it's a very high priced item. I think they retail for $30 or $40 per book. But I mean, this is DC merchandise that only, you know, a handful of people are buying because they're so high priced, and it's an old book. It's a new printing of a very old book. It's already out in trade paperback. Like, it's way over. It's even had sequels to it. So in the long run, I think these books are going to be very hard to find, especially.
Yeah, speaking of DC merchandise, I mean, you know, for all those years we had DC Direct, and we were like, we love DC Direct, right? We loved it. They had, and then McFarlane comes along. And it's like
steps it up and
completely reimagines what DC Direct should be.
Yeah.
And the new Batman Year 2 looks ridiculous, Alex.
Yeah.
I wish I had that when I was a kid.
Yeah. Well, maybe for Christmas. Maybe for Hanukkah. Maybe you'll get a nice
Harry
present. Yeah, that's it.
Hanukkah Harry. All right, what do we got next, Alex?
Let's talk about let's jump into our Rockets session. Love and Rockets #1.
Yeah. So interesting story with the Hernandez brothers. You know, they don't really sell their art direct. They kind of sell their art only through Heritage. Mm-hmm. And what they do is they put the covers for sale, usually in the quarterly big auctions, and they put individual pages for sale, usually in the weekly auctions. So the artwork, they've always been very smart.
Yes.
I give them credit, even from the very beginning. They've always been very smart not to like flood the market with their stuff. It's like, if you want a page of Love and Rockets, you can get a page every week in the one or two pages a week in the Heritage Weekly auctions, but you got to wait for the quarterly auctions to get the covers. And they've always maintained their value, and that line has always maintained its value. That property, Alex, is 40 years old.
Yeah, right.
40.
Does not
talk to me. Yeah, talk to me about, you know, and now you're starting to see increase in pricing. It took that long. You know, I think the Ninja Turtles has kind of scared people a little bit. You're starting to see that movement in some of these indie books. Talk to me a little bit about the long-lasting effect of Love and Rockets. What is the story about? Why is it still around? And by the way, why have we not seen it on TV or movie or anything?
That answer, I don't know. Maybe it's, you know, again, it's like a Usagi Yojimbo conundrum, right? it's such a beloved character and series, and it does so well. I think the creators just hold it very close to themselves. Love and Rocket's been going. There's still new issues printed. There's a bunch of different characters. It's a bunch of vignettes in the book. Maggie and Hope. It's just it's a culmination of just a bunch of stories and ideas that the brothers Hernandez have. But I mean, like you said, it's been going on forever. I think Fantagraphics. I think that's one of the smartest moves Fantagraphics ever did was buy into the Love and Rockets and start printing them and putting them out magazines and trades. But it is something that's just, again, lasted forever. These guys aren't, they're never falling off. It's only getting better and better. And this early stuff is like extremely hard to find. And with indie books, it's not like superhero books. Superhero books, people take them and collect them. Indie books, most of the people that buy indie books read them and trash them, read them, give them away, put them as, out on their coffee table. It's not like a big collector market.
Yeah, what's funny is that I think back to our early days at Wizard, 1990, 1991, and like there are titles that we talked about in those early issues. And it's like, it's just interesting. It's like, here we are 30 years later.
Right.
And Ninja Turtles, putting aside the Marvel and the DC stuff,
right.
The Valiant stuff didn't really materialize into the universe that they thought it was going to be in terms of the movies and the TV shows, but like a lot of the other stuff has.
The Crow,
a lot of the other stuff has.
Jimbo,
So it's just interesting. Okay, Love and Rockets #1, Hernandez Brothers production, 1981. There are 36 Blue Label 9/8, 6 Gold Label 9/8. There are 21 Blue Label 9.6s and 6 Gold Label 9.6s. That's about a $900 book. It's the first appearance of Izzy, Maggie, Hopi, Rand, Duke, Penny, Bang, and Inez, with a prototype of Luba. Obviously, it's Gilbert and Jamie Hernandez stories and art. So interesting story there. At $900 might be an interesting pickup considering all the other jumps that we're starting to see now. Yeah. I think over the next year and a half, I think you're going to see massive jumps on all these kind of rare early 80s, 90s, and 2000s books.
Definitely.
Yeah. All right, cool. What do we got next, Alex?
Let's talk a little Rocketeer.
Right. Again, another book, 40th anniversary.
Yep.
40 years, Alex. Hard to believe, right?
Yeah.
These books are starting to pick up a little bit.
As they
started out with Pacific Comics. Talk a little bit. I mean, I remember the Rocketeer film. It was Billy Zane, right?
Yeah. Billy Zane was
who was the love interest in that movie?
I forget her name. She looked like Betty Page. That's what I remember.
Was that Jennifer Connelly?
I don't know. Was it Jennifer Connelly? It might have been.
Yes.
It was nice work. Nice work.
Yes. I was correct.
Yeah.
So talk a little bit about the Rocketeer and it's again 40 years, Alex. Talk a little bit about Rocketeer.
Rocketeers, I love the Rocketeer. I mean, obviously everybody knows about the movie, which is still, I think, probably one of the best comic adaptation movies because it was very easy to do. Dave Stevens also very, very kind of like your comic book artist. Everybody loves Dave Stevens. Not a lot of Rocketeer stuff came out. He passed away early before he could really do a lot more work. But again, a character and a comic that people have loved forever. It's up there with like your Indiana Jones. It's like the 1930s, a pilot finds a jetpack and then solves crime. And it was ripe in that era in the 90s for something like an Indiana Jones and something else. And then again, Dave Stevens, just beautiful work.
Right. So Rocketeer first appeared in Star Slayer, April 1982, 206 Blue Label 9/8, 10 Gold Label 9/8. There's actually one 9.9 Blue Label. It's only a $565 book, Alex. Seems very cheap. $80 to $90 raw. I think you pick it one up. I think you're crazy if you don't. Mike Grell, as you said, I'm a big Mike Grell fan. I've always loved Green Arrow, Longbow Hunters. Has a special place in my heart from when that book came out. That was a book, again, the big three when I was a kid was V for Vendetta, Dark Knight Returns, and Green Arrow, Longbow Hunters. Those were the three books. People don't necessarily remember the Green Arrow one, but they do remember V for Vendetta.
Yeah,
V for Vendetta, man. Oh, and Watchmen. Those were the big four. V for Vendetta, Watchmen, and Dark Knight. Could you imagine 1980? That was 1980 something. That was
changing everything.
That was a ridiculous stretch to think that those four books came out within that time period.
Yep,
it's unbelievable. I mean, it was like everybody was trying to one up each other. You know, it was like Frank Miller's like, I'm going to do this. And then Alan Moore's like, yeah, but I'm going to do that, you know? So in any case, Star Slayer #3, the second appearance, June of 1982, 27 Blue Label, 0 Gold Label, 9.8s, 18 Blue Label, 1 Gold Label, 9.6. It's about a $15 to $25 book raw. I was not able to find any. I think those are probably all in personal collections.
Definitely.
All right, Alex, what are we closing up with today?
Yeah, let's talk about the Ghost Rider, non-flammable Ghost Rider, Mr. Bones, Director Bones to you.
Again, what you're starting to see is the companies are starting to go to the library.
Yeah,
I think they're saying to themselves, do we have a character that can do this, 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 and this? And they're saying, oh yeah, we have this character called Mr. Bones from 30 years ago. Let's do it. And I think, again, you're going to start to see this more and more. Again, I got to dust off your back issue bin. You have a lot of friends. You have a lot of dealer friends that have these back issue bins. No one's asked for these books in 20 years. All of a sudden, everybody wants them. 1985 Infinity Inc. Talk a little bit about Mr. Bones and Todd McFarlane and the comeback of Mr. Bones.
Yeah, I mean, this is a character in Infinity Inc. who is a villain. He had a cyanide touch. I love his costume. It's like high collar.
It actually is a very cool. He looks like a pirate a little bit.
Yeah, it's very pirate like. Yeah.
Like Pirates of the Caribbean almost reminds me of.
Yeah, like Captain Harlock. Like, yeah, very influenced. But he was a villain, and then eventually he turns into a kind of a bureaucrat. He was the director of the DEO, Department of Human Affairs Office, extraterrestrial office. He deals with superheroes. You know, he makes sure everybody's in line and not going crazy or not doing, you know, and making sure Batman's not out there killing everybody in the name of justice. And he's just been around. He was in the Manhunter comics. He's in Checkmate now. And he's not going away. He's really cool. His head's a skeleton, so it's, you know, awesome. And he smokes a lot, so also fun. And yeah, the character's not going anywhere. Eventually he'll wind up in something. His design is too cool not to.
Right. Okay, so Infinity Inc. #16, July of 1985, 19 Blue Label, 0 Gold Label, 9.8. That's about a $230 book. First appearance of Mr. Bones, Roy Thomas story. Todd McFarlane cover and art. Number 17 came out early Todd. Number 17 comes out a month later, August of 85. 8 Blue Label, 0 Gold Label. That's about an $18 book raw. Same team again on that. Infinity Inc. #28, July of 86. 5 Blue Label, 0 Gold Label, 9.8. That's about a $28 book raw. Again, same team. Roy Thomas story, Todd McFarlane art. Although Todd did not do that cover.
Right.
Then you have Infinity Inc. #38, May of 87. 7 Blue Label, 0 Gold Label, 9.8. That's about a $28 book raw. That Todd is not involved in that book.
Right.
And then the last book, which is the final issue of the series, Infinity Inc. #52, July of 88. 1 Blue Label, 0 Gold Label, 9.8. That's a $10 to $15 raw book. So I would pick up those 6 books. There's no reason not to right now. If Mr. Bones is making any kind of comeback at all, they're
good paper
impossible
stock.
to find.
Yeah, they're
very
good paper
low
stock
pop
too,
books.
So
yeah. All right. Well, we had fun today. If you have any questions or comments, leave it in the field. And otherwise, we will see you next week. Same bad time.
Same bat channel. Adios.